How did Sam land you?
He promised me we weren't hunting for aliens. You?
He promised me we were.
Hi, this is the Professional Amateur Hour coming to you with another review. This week, Leo sent me a screener for Signal 1. And this 2026 film was directed by Jonathan Sobol and stars Isabelle Fuhrman, Josh Hutcherson, and Dennis Quaid, among others, of course. And so what is the story of Signal 1? Well, it is about these three scientists, and they have been brought to this private island owned by a billionaire for some sci-fi stuff. They have equipment that can detect a alien signal, but it is not through like airwaves or light waves or whatever it might be. It's through the quantum realm with quantum entanglement being involved. And so they have the option to actually contact the aliens back. So of course they have to talk about, is it ethical to do this? You know, should we or should we not do it? What would it mean to let them know where we are? Are they going to attack us? If they do know, what's going on? Well, they kind of discuss it and, turn on their machine. What will happen? Well, for that, you gotta watch the movie and find out. All right, so let's discuss Signal 1. Well, with this film, I did enjoy all of the sci-fi elements. I do enjoy sometimes having a slower story with sci-fi stuff. With this one, it's much more about the philosophy of, actually contacting these aliens. And there's lots of movies out there that kind of do a similar thing. Contact comes to mind, like what's actually going on with that alien contact. With this one, it does highlight a lot of the ideas seen in the three body problem, which is like a dark forest or something. So like everyone's just like very hostile to each other. So if you do let yourself, be known to others, they're just going to come in and attack you. And they have a lot of philosophy about that and what that could mean and what we should do. And then even then, like if there's only three scientists and a billionaire, should they actually be the ones who contact it, or shouldn't it be governments and stuff like that? So if you are able to engage in the philosophy of sci-fi, this is probably one that, will give you some good things to think about. Also with The Signal, I did enjoy kind of the thinking and the thoughts behind that as well. It's done on quantum entanglement, which is where you have like two atoms and they're communicating with each other no matter the distance. And this one is kind of like taking like all of the quantum realm and kind of doing a signal through that, because I guess everything was tangled together, during the Big Bang, and then they're kind of untangling themselves. And I don't know, it's just kind of like an interesting idea I'd never actually heard before. So there are, like I said, some good philosophy ideas for you to enjoy in this one. And with the sci-fi stuff too, they do have this like triangle signal thing that's really cool. And then, they turn it on and then they have some stuff happening in the sky. So they do integrate a little bit of CGI here or there. And I, for the most part, think it's effective for a story like that. That's more about, what they're talking about rather than, what actually is happening. That is perfectly fine with this one. It does kind of lead into how it all ends, but it ultimately, I would say, works as an overall movie. It certainly has kind of a slower pace and, softer tone and more relaxed tone as well. And so you can just go along with it as long as you're willing to think about things. In addition, I enjoyed seeing all of the famous faces in this one. It does have quite a star-studded cast, of course, with David Hutcherson in there. He's kind of a famous guy. And who else? Dennis Quaid is in it. He's like the billionaire character. He's not in it a whole bunch, but he's still in it. And what's the other guy's name? Is it David Thewlis? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that one right, but he's a famous face. I'm sure you'll recognize him. And so having all these names in it make it for more of a prestigious movie, and I hope it helps, certainly. And I think with the actors, they probably really enjoyed filming this one as it takes place on a tropical island, and so they're all just there. It's probably like more of a vacation to go there than anything else. Just do a little bit of acting here or there, and then just lay on the beach and eat some shellfish or whatever it is you do on vacation. And I actually enjoyed the setting quite a bit too. I thought it was so fun to see this little tropical island, and then they go from here or there, then a different beach and the rock structure. They don't like say these things are any importance to the story, of course, but it just kind of gives it more like kind of like a 70s flair of sci-fi, like Like, I like to read sci-fi books from the 70s, and it just kind of like reminded me of it, where it's much more kind of about the ideas rather than anything about any explosion or anything like that. So them just, hanging out on this island, it's cool to look at the island, and it's fun to hear what they have to say. So there are certainly elements in this one that make it for a fine watch. And I think that brings me to what doesn't work with this film. Well, I kind of think the nature of the whole story kind of takes a toll on itself, as I think the acting is kind of lackluster. Certainly Dennis and David don't do a good job, and David's supposed to be like drunk the whole time, so like he's not even very charismatic or anything like that. And then with like Josh Hutcherson and Isabelle there, their characters don't really have any need for emotions, as it's just talking about philosophy. So there is kind of this wooden or stiff acting because they don't have anything to emote to. After all, how are you going to emote to these philosophical ideas, right? You're not going to get so angry that you punch a wall or anything by just talking about ideas. And that does play into it. Maybe it makes a more relaxed, calm feeling while you're watching it, but it's just not, the best acting I've seen from these actors. In addition, part of that is because they're just talking the whole time. It's just people talking to each other. And so I would say there's quite a few talking in room scenes. It's a lot of that. Sometimes they're even talking on the beach, or talking at night on the beach, or talking over dinner or something like that. So there is just kind of a lot of just calm talking and things to think about with this one. And I can see that not being everybody's cup of tea, but the mood that I was in that night, I didn't really know what to expect, but I certainly did enjoy thinking about things. And that's something I do enjoy. So would I recommend this one? Well, if you like things like the three body problem, I would say this is probably one that you would enjoy. Certainly it has ideas right out of that book, and I know it's a movie and stuff like that. I didn't watch the show or movie, but I did read the book, so I did have an idea of what was kind of the thing they're talking about. So if you like sci-fi philosophy, yeah, press play on this one. And as for a rating, well, with all things considered, I gotta give it this score of 5, which is very average. For me, I enjoyed the philosophy of it, just not necessarily some of the other things. So yeah, I think a 5 is fair enough. And with that being said, I think that's all I wanted to say. So like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.